Okay, let's get this show started. Welcome back to another week of Zenbird Live. Zenwaves Live, sorry. It's Zenbird's weekly live stream, where we cover sustainability news from Japan. Oh, that's what's supposed to be, but for some reason our site is down today. That is this is a very strange occurrence. We have no idea why the site is down. The engineers are working on it, but the show must go on, and that's why this week you see, there's a bit of difference with the layout of the screen and what we are looking at. So we won't be able to cover Zenbird's news this week until the site is back up, but we can look at other articles, other issues that are going on. And I thought, it's with all the climate crisis discussion going on, I thought we'll jump into some environmental issues and see what we can talk about. And I found at least 3 articles that I thought today will be a good exploration. Now, it won't be unusual, we'll go through the article, I share some insight, but it's really an exploration live stream today. So we'll see how it goes. And today, as you can see, I was trying to research, when is Japan really gonna, if Japan has announced a date on when they're gonna dump the radioactive wastewater into the ocean. And the reason why I was in there is because of our first article that we want to look at soon, as soon as this browser gives way to our sometimes we don't get to control our browser. I keep saying this, but the setup is really a minimal setup. This laptop isn't really very good for streaming, but something that Zenbird has to do, because we are trying to get news out, solutions and the problems that we need to know. And the other earlier this week, we had a live stream with Joy from Sustainable from Japan, and Six Sustainable Japan, and some quite surprised that some of the topics are not that well known. In fact, the last week we had an event with Sado. The event is about sustainability and Japanese tea ceremony, and we had a social contribution factor. One participant that participates, Zenbird will donate a meal to one of the children in Nara who are facing difficulties, vulnerable children facing difficulties like poverty or other issues. And some of our participants were surprised that Japan has child poverty. So there are often this I won't call it invisible, but we don't really think about it. It's not something that we relate to. We don't relate Japan with poverty, because when we think about Tokyo, it's such a consumer orientated society, but there are quite a number of problems that we need to face for certain demographics and many of our minorities. And this is one of the reasons why we need to talk about issues that we need to talk about rather than avoiding them. Okay. Well, anyway. Oh, all right. I just received a notification that maybe the site is up. But I don't want to go into it and do everything from a setup. So let's go on with our planned itinerary today, which is to go through a few articles. And of course, the first one that we are looking at comes from Honolulu Silver Beat. Scientists, Japan's plan to dump nuclear waste into the Pacific Ocean may not be safe. Now, right, and this article explains everything. So I'll just read from the article so that it's easier. So a panel of scientists has identified critical gaps in data supporting the safe discharge of wastewater into the Pacific. Independent scientists are questioning Japan's plans to dump just over 1 million tons of nuclear wastewater into the Pacific Ocean, following a review of the available evidence. The panel of multidisciplinary scientists hired by the Intergovernmental Pacific Islands Forum has not found conclusive evidence that the discharge would be entirely safe. And one marine biologist fears contamination could affect the food system. Last year, Japan announced that wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, destroyed in March 2011, following the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, will be dropped into the Pacific in 2023, and that's next year. The announcement triggered immediate concern from nations and territories in the Asia-Pacific region and led the Pacific Islands Forum to hire a panel of 5 independent experts to review the plan. Previously, it was broadly believed that dropping the wastewater into the ocean would be safe, given it had been treated with advanced liquid processing system technology, which removes radioactive materials from contaminated water. But panel scientist Robert Richmond, director of University of Hawaii Kewalo Marine Laboratory, says the panel unanimously believes that critical gaps in information renaming. Previous discussions over the safety of Japan's plans emphasized the chemistry of the discharge, but not how it could react with marine life, he said. If the ocean were a sterile glass vessel, that would be one thing, Richmond said, but it's not, there's lots of biology involved. So, up to now, the discussions have been about the chemistry of the discharge, of how it would react with the ocean, but it does not have. I guess there's no conclusion on how it would react with marine life. So Richmond has been particularly concerned about the potential of tritium, a key compound of concern, being absorbed into the food system because the radioactive isotope can bind to phytoplankton. Through phytoplankton, Richmond says, the radioactive elements could then find its way into greater food system as the microscopic plants are consumed by mollusks and small fish, which are later consumed by other fish and eventually humans. Things like mercury in fish are now an international concern. Radionuclides will be the same, Richmond said. The situation is dynamic too, as climate change affects the temperature of waters and weather patterns change. As temperatures go up, many chemicals become more interactive. They become a little bit different in terms of breakdown, he said. So these things are all the things we need to consider. Confusing the masses. Oh, no ads please. The Pacific Islands Forum convened its panel of experts, specializing in policy and different scientific disciplines because of the highly technical nature of Japan's plan. The PIF, the Pacific Island Forum, did not respond to a request for an interview for this story, but Forum Secretary General Henry Puna has said that while Japan was open and frank in several information sessions held with the forum, it wanted to bring its own group of experts to look at the data and advise them. I just want to note that for us, the issue is very urgent, but also requires very careful thinking, Puna said in September. A team in Fukushima was part of the 2015 IAEA mission to review Japan's plans and work to decommission the damaged Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Since Japan announced it would release the treated water into the Pacific, it has been working with the International Atomic Energy Association, probably this team here, to ensure its plants are safe. In February, the IAEA made its first assessment and recently completed a second assessment at the end of March. End of March this year. So the first one was in February and recently completed a second assessment at the end of March this year too. So the IAEA is expected to deliver reports from its site visits in the next 2 months, according to its website, and would release a fully comprehensive report before any water is released. Richmond said the panel wants to work with Japan and the IAEA to ensure the best outcome. Nevertheless, the information seen by the panel showed less than 1% of the tanks of wastewater had been treated and less than 20% had been adequately sampled, Richmond said. Based on the numbers alone, we are uncomfortable in making predictions of where things are going to end up, Richmond said. Okay. So it's really unconclusive. And based on this, the government has already decided to release the water, radioactive water, into the ocean. That's a gap there. The Pacific perspective. Community groups and environmental organizations were quick to respond to the news last year, raising concerns about the long-term effects to their region, with its legacy of nuclear testing and the fallout. And coastal communities and fishermen in Japan have also raised concerns. The US expressed its support for the plan in April last year, which has since been criticized by US territories and affiliated states. Representative Sheila Babauta of the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands introduced a resolution to CNMI's House of Representatives opposing any nuclear testing, storage, or waste disposal in the Pacific. It was passed in December, months after the US stated its position, and after other Pacific groups and governments condemned the move. I'm really disappointed in the lack of engagement, the lack of information, and the lack of free, prior, and informed consent, Babauta, who chairs the Natural Resources Committee, said. The mistrust that is harbored by many in the Pacific stands back to US nuclear testing in the Republic of Marshall Islands following World War II, British testing in Kiribati, and the French in French Polynesia, which had flow-on effects to the environment and long-term health of Pacific people. And in 1979, Japan provoked backlash when it reviewed plans to dump 10,000 drums of nuclear waste in the Marianas Trench. Babauta says she introduced the resolution as a show of solidarity for the rest of the Pacific. The ocean is our oldest ancestor. The ocean is our legacy. And Babauta said, "It's what we are going to leave for our children." And so, yeah, I've been trying to find out when is Japan going to be dumping the wastewater. And yet, so they don't have a date yet. Now, I've written to the authorities. I would like for Zenbird to actually go down next month, hopefully by the end of next month, to Fukushima and see what's the situation like that. Well, of course, Japan. Zenbird is interested in how the region is holding up. You know, what kind of revitalization plans. How is it like? There's also an extra tour where we can actually visit the plant itself, the Daiichi nuclear power plant. Yeah, radioactives are still going to be high, but I believe it's going to be safe enough for just a half a day visit. So yeah, I'll be going down. Hopefully, we get more understanding of how the region is like. If you search on internet, there's some people who say yes, it's safe, some people who say it's no. And yeah, I think Zenbird really wants to know for ourselves, to get down there and see how safe is safe. You know, Sure, we want to help Fukushima with the revitalization, put out a good word. But as you know, when Zenbird has covered stories on our Dear Japan series, we don't mince words. We say it like it is, and we'd like to know how it really is in the coastal regions of Fukushima. So that is a concern. Things like mercury in fish are now an international concern. Radionuclides will be the same, and that's the thing. Mercury is still an issue in Japan. Not just environmentally. I think environmentally is okay, but there is still the social effects. Zenbird did a Minamata story 2 years. No, it was last year. No, 3 years back. 1.5 years back. And the discrimination is still there. When we talk about Minamata, there's still attached discrimination, prejudice, and Fukushima is going to face the same. And I think it will worsen if this wastewater is being dumped into the ocean, which personally it doesn't make sense to me. But we'll see how Zenbird will stand on that. And yes, right now there is no conclusion to how radioactive waste affects ocean life. It's very hard to measure. How are we going to, let's say you sample a part of the ocean, but the ocean flows, right? So how it's very hard to have a conclusive. It's very hard to draw a conclusion between nuclear waste disposal and effects on the surrounding ocean. Now there have been health results, but it's been very hard to draw that the increase of cancer risk with radioactive dumping, and that's one of the challenges that we need to face. And now we are talking about using nuclear waste as an energy source, and yet we still haven't really have a way to dispose of our nuclear waste. And now Japan has decided to just dump it in the ocean. Personally, I don't agree, but it's a very complex issue. But it's not. I'm not saying that Japan is playing the villain here. I think the cooperation is really strong. Japan wants to get this right, and it's like this article says. It could. Right now, it's a big question mark. We don't know how it will turn out. And even let's say the current panel says it's okay. Is it really okay? There's still a big question mark. And that's the story for Fukushima for now. Okay. I did find other articles that's really interesting. Okay. Now, for the past few months, 1 or 2 months, I've always been wondering about the relation of Japan and veganism. Now, can veganism solve climate change? I believe that it is one of the big prongs. But before I share my opinion, I really want to know what this author, Anthony, has for us. So let's see. Futurist man, get my newsletter. Okay. I need to find out more about him. Maybe he will introduce himself. So anyway, what is this article about? Where did we get the idea veganism can solve climate change? Mistaken science is distracting us. So, cattle. Oh, sorry. Can you see? Okay, cattle have been denigrated as a major cause of greenhouse gases, and therefore a cause of climate change. When I first heard this as a former farmer, I thought that's preposterous. Do cows have more impact than fossil fuels? No way. Actually, no. It doesn't mean that cows do not, release greenhouse gases. That's what I think. So, okay. So he looked up, and I'm interested in his findings. Sure enough, a 2009 report from the World Watch Institute claims livestock accounts for 51% of greenhouse gases, more than industry, coal burning, electricity generation, and transportation combined. Whatever those guys smoke at World Watch, I like some Friday nights. I like some for Friday nights. That report is no longer available. Okay, it's not hard to figure out why. Yeah, I think the story is wrong. I don't think it's 51% of greenhouse gases. No, even from the statistics from circular economy is less than 45%. But it's funny. It's very hard to say it like this. It's not a simple matter. Cows release methane. Methane is the biggest problem that we want to face immediately, including cutting fossil fuels. The reason why we want to cut methane is because methane is 28 times worse for global warming than carbon dioxide. So, okay, keep it simple. It's about 30 times. So let's say the amount of methane gas may be less than carbon dioxide, but it's definitely worse. So yeah, so when we're talking about 51% of greenhouse gases, what are we really looking at? And now he says that the information is dead. Okay, let's continue with what he says. The original story emphasizing the greenhouse gases contribution of livestock came from the United Nations FOA, Food and Agriculture Organization. FOA published a study authored by Henning Steinfeld. My apologies to any Steinfeld out there. Henning Steinfeld in 2006, which claimed that livestock produced 18% of global greenhouse gases and concluded that livestock was producing more greenhouse gases than the entire transportation sector. Although it is a mystery how World Watch inflated that to 51%. Yes. 3 years later, the claim in the FOA study was eye-catching. Apparently, many eyes caught it, and then they read World Watch too. But there is a slight problem. There is a mistake in the science. Frank M. I'm going to call you MM. Frank MM, Professor of Animal Science and Air Quality Extension Specialist, University of California, Davis, reviewed the report and raised an issue with the carbon footprint compared at the center of this conclusion. Here is what he wrote. The problem was that FOA analysis used a comprehensive life cycle assessment to study the climate impact of livestock, but a different method where they analyze transportation. For livestock, they consider every factor. Okay, I don't think I will cover this. No, I'm just going to read this. For livestock, they consider every factor associated with producing meat, which includes emission from fertilizer production, converting land from forests to pastures, growing feed, and direct emissions from animals, bleaching, and manure from birth to death. However, when they look at transportation's carbon footprints, they ignore impacts on the climate from manufacturing vehicle materials and parts, assembling vehicles, and maintaining roads, bridges, and airports. Instead, they only consider exhaust emitted by finished cars, trucks, trains, and planes. As a result, FOA's comparison of greenhouse gas emissions from livestock to those from transportation was greatly distorted. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, it is true. It is a problem, and so I think Frank is right in saying that when we look at the whole product from the take, make, waste, take and make cycles. In transportation, yeah, they didn't look at the more comprehensive parts of transportation. So we're not just talking about cars, we're not talking about emissions from vehicles, but also the infrastructure in building them. It is important to define it, but I don't understand the impact yet. Let's continue with the article. The study author corrects this mistake. This oversight was pointed out by Professor M and Mr. Steinfeld, the original author of the FOA report, corrected, and the FOA official corrected this mistake. A subsequent article by him addresses the issue directly. The comparison measures direct emissions from transport against both direct and indirect emissions from livestock. So we are missing of the indirect emissions from transport. The IPCC identifies and monitors. The IPCC estimates. If you're looking at this video, I don't think we need to know what IPCC. I don't need to explain what IPCC is. The IPCC estimates that direct emissions from transport accounts for 6.9 gigatons per year, about 14% of all emissions from human activities. These emissions mainly consist of carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide from fuel combustion. By comparison, direct emissions from livestock accounts for 2.3 gigatons of CO2 equivalent, or 5% of the total. They consist of methane and nitrous oxide from rumen digestion and manure management. In other words, if you compare the same types of contribution to greenhouse gases, namely the direct emissions, transportation is 14% and livestock is 5%. There is no data on the direct emissions from transportation, so a direct comparison cannot be made. There is no data on the indirect emissions from transportation. Indeed, that is on the economy side, so yeah, that is an issue. Okay, the point is that livestock accounts only for a very small portion of greenhouse gas emissions. No, it's not a very small portion. 5% is not a very small. It is substantial to buy us time on our climate clock. Yeah. And if you're wondering, let's see over here, this side. This is our climate clock. The numbers in red is our carbon budget, and we have if we don't buy more time, our time will be irreversible for our 1.5 effect, 1.5 degrees change. And I don't know. Sometimes it feels that we have less time than that because of the feedback. But anyway, let's jump back into our article. The point is that livestock only accounts for a very small portion of greenhouse gas emissions. No, I don't think small. Science is a process of continuing to peel back layers of the onions, so to speak, until you get the truth. Big claims derived from the science by ideologically driven think tanks like Worldwatch must be regarded with some skepticism. Individual scientists must be examined for their links to the industry and interested parties. Eventually, the truth comes out. But sometimes, as in this case, it comes out way too late and the initial incorrect conclusions can taint public thinking for a long time. Advocates distract from real climate solutions. Interesting. Okay. The claim that cattle produce excessive greenhouse gases was a mistake. Excessive. That means a large portion. No, I still think 5% is significant. If you are talking about insignificant, it's way too small, probably less than 1%. That would be the case, but this is 5%. If his numbers is correct. No, sorry. If the report by FOAO is correct. Okay. Pro-vegan folks may not like to hear it, but going vegan will have minimal impact as a climate change solution. Nonetheless, for years, and even today, climate advocates have been pouring energy into this mistaken priority because they could get everyone to swear off beef. It will fix the problem. That conclusion, however, is pseudoscience and is distracts us from arguments and actions that will have a significant impact. The only real solution is to stop burning stuff, and for that to happen, we need better technology, new systems, and policies that encourage them. Also, to fight corruption among oil and gas companies. I cannot. I will link it. Let me put a note. Vice actually released a video 3 days ago that shares why there's this hidden factor of why it takes more than protests. It takes a lot of encouragement and ethical leadership from our leaders from EU, from all the countries to fight oil and gas companies. I'll put that video from Vice into our description at the end of the stream. Let me put a note there. Okay. Let's continue with the article. So the only real solution, he says, is we need better technology, systems, and policies. So even if we cut eating beef, it will not fix the problem. Okay. Ideas inside. Okay. Okay, I do not know the writer. If I don't think I'll need to dig further into figuring out his intentions to writing this. But it's an interesting concept because can veganism solve climate change? I think there's more than that. It's same as I would draw analogy to nuclear energy. Should we use is nuclear energy green or not? Should we use it? But it's not just about trying to achieve zero carbon emissions. It's also about how do we deal with the nuclear waste after that. What are the risks to the surrounding community? Do we have the adequate adequate knowledge to implement safe nuclear energy? And eating meat is also that. It's not just about eating meat to reduce carbon emissions. It's also especially for now, I'm still trying to figure out what is the ethical reasoning for us eating meat. There is no ethical if animals have lives, and why are we still eating meat? It's more than just about reducing carbon emissions. No, I think this article is only unveils a small part of a larger picture, and that is we are not doing agriculture right. We are raising them just to eat, and that's wrong. It's not sustainable. It's not circular. I don't have a link right now, but for example, in Kenya, in a developing country, they use a circular system to ethically grow livestock and even plants, chickens, sheep, and of course cows. And it goes beyond just a discussion of cows are producing methane. It's about regenerating the system, because if you think about all the animals and their manure, they become they are returned. If you can set up a good system, it will actually enrich the soil so that you can grow crops. And what Kenyan farmers do is they rotate the pastures so that the land can take time to grow. The animals can provide their manure to regenerate the soil, to give it nutrients, so that they can grow nutrients at the end of the cycle. But I think this article brings out a good. I think it brings out the point that I don't agree with the conclusion that stopping eating meat is not significant. It is still significant, But I think we should be looking for a sustainable way to consume, and even if that includes meat. I myself not conclusive on whether we should eat meat. Veganism has its advantage, and that's important to know too. I'd like to collect some data on that. So yeah, okay, let's go on to our third article. Come on, browser, give me the control back. Okay. Nope, the browser isn't reacting. Yeah. Still not too sure why though. Browser, only the browser doesn't react. Well, it's likely I have 300 or 400 tabs open, and that's why, yeah, it has problems trying to react to how it, there's not enough memory to load the next browser. Okay, we're not gonna keep you up. If it doesn't load in the next minute, I am going to end the stream, and hopefully our Zenbird site has already come back. Not too sure what's the issue, but I hope that none of the members has done any strange updates. Come on. So yeah, like I said, Zenbird is actually going down to Fukushima next month. My main concern is, how are the people being affected? Those of you who have followed Zenbird will know that we actually discuss one of the issues, which is internally displaced people, and in other words, refugees in your own country. These people who have been affected by both the earthquake and so there's both affected by the tsunami and the meltdown, have evacuated the coastal areas of Fukushima. Right now, I think they only have 1,000, a population of 1,000 in the coastal areas, and yeah, it's been 11 years, and only 1,000 people have returned. Now I could be wrong, and that's why it's so important for us to go down to actually know what's going on there. And what is next? What does it take to get people to return? We're not too sure of the fisheries too, because my sense is that they are worried about the dumping of water into the ocean, because they spent the last 10 years, the last decade, to try and win back minds that Fukushima fishery, the catch is safe. And now with the announcement to dump water into the ocean, that has gotten a lot of people worried. I believe that businesses haven't returned to coastal areas yet, in a limited number. And I believe the area is still high in radioactive and radioactivity. It's very strange. Am I concerned for my health? I think I will be taking I'll be personally taking a dose a lot less than what we usually fear. We tend to fear what we don't understand, and I think this trip is going to give me a lot more insight into how much should we be really worried. What I last understand is that they give you this measurement, radioactivity measurement counter, and it goes beat, right? So as it raises, it beats faster. I think that is probably the only way, the only thing that will get people worried. If I can, I would like to stay over at one one of the recommended, I say, Yado, hotels or hostels, so that I can understand. No, actually eat the food there and see what happens. Well, I don't think anything will happen, but it gives me a chance to see, maybe a chance to talk with the Okami-san, the host, the staff of the hotels. Yeah. Okay, so yep, that's the message. We're getting a lot of message because the site is down. But now we don't know. Anyway, since the browser doesn't want to give us back the control, we will end our stream here. So, thank you for watching. Sorry for our site being down and we couldn't share news from outside, but I think we got something useful today. Well, the wastewater article not so much, but about veganism and how much impact can it give us for our to cut our carbon emissions, our decarbonization efforts. So we'll end our stream here, and sorry for the shorter than usual, but yeah, and definitely next week will be a much smoother stream than this, unless the Wi-Fi hooks up. Right now I'm in Wakayama. We are moving to Mie Prefecture next week, so hopefully things will be better then. Okay, and this is the weekend. If you're in Japan, you have a long weekend, so enjoy it. It's a golden week. It's a long holiday. Those of you outside of Japan, it's a weekend. Have a good break. Take care of yourself, recharge, and ready for a new week. See you when I see you.